Okay, this one is actually insane. One hockey writer has proposed an absolute blockbuster of a deal between the Calgary Flames and Montreal Canadiens that includes the Flames offloading the Jonathan Huberdeau contract in order to send him home. Yeah, this one really is nuts, and we have another trade proposal later on as well. We're going to get into all that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family, and let's get into this one because it is odd, is what I'll say. The chapter of this one is just what? Sometimes you read a rumor that you just can't believe, and then you dive into it, and maybe there's some legitimacy to it, but I mean, we're going to take a look at this one. Whether you're a Flames fan, whether you're a Habs fan, please let me know what you think of this one. I kind of feel like I know which way both fan bases are going to lean, but we've already seen the Flames and Habs linked once this offseason with Nazem Kadri, but now with Jonathan Huberdeau, sometimes you just can't believe it. But this is the headline of this article. If you're not a fan of clickbait, then my goodness. It says, Canadiens acquire $84 million star winger in new blockbuster trade pitch. Keyword pitch there at the end. But this one's written by Cole Shelton. Bit of an interesting one. So let's dive in. So the Montreal Canadiens are looking to bolster their offense and make a deeper playoff run. So the Habs have been active this offseason as Montreal acquired Noah Dobson and Zachary Bolduc in trades. However, Montreal may not be done as Heavy.com has a blockbuster trade idea that has the Canadiens acquiring Jonathan Huberdeau from the Calgary Flames. And already as a Flames fan, you're thinking, look, I love Hubie-Dooby-Doo. He's not worth his contract. The latest, rankings of worst contracts in the league came out. Of course, his was number one in all of them. So you're kind of thinking, man, if we can trade away this contract, we're in a pretty good spot, I guess you could say. So, I'm enticed, to say the least, even if you're thinking, what? Right away. So, in this trade, the Habs acquire Huberdeau. That's it, just Huberdeau. The Flames acquire Josh Andersson, Arber Xhekaj, Owen Beck, and a 2026 second-round pick. That is a blockbuster, to say the least. And us acquiring picks in a trade like this is kind of nuts. So the proposed deal would be a blockbuster as Montreal would acquire Huberdeau, who hasn't lived up to expectations for an NHL forward, an NHL defenseman, a prospect, and a second-round pick. That's pretty nuts. So again, to reiterate, an actual NHL forward, it might be Andersson, who's not the best and kind of expensive, an NHL defenseman in Arber Xhekaj, who was a fan favorite in Montreal, a prospect in Owen Beck, and a second round pick in next year's draft. Nuts. It would be a tough trade for the Canadiens, but Montreal needs to go all in with its young core as the East is wide open. And let me tell you right now, this is written from, the Habs part of Heavy.com. It's from a Habs perspective. They're the ones saying, we need offense, let's bring in Huberdeau. Nuts, I know, right? The Canadiens would acquire Huberdeau, who's entering the third year of his 8-year, $84 million deal with the Flames, which is $10.5 million per season. Huberdeau has struggled with the Flames and could use a change of scenery, and playing for his hometown team could help him. Huberdeau would be a top 6 forward for the Habs and add some more offense to the lineup. He recorded 28 goals and 34 assists for 62 points in 81 games. His career high is 115 points, but with the Flames, the offense hasn't been there. And he's shown flashes. His December last year was fantastic, but it's just been very inconsistent. Obviously, ever since the Xhekaj trade, it really hasn't gone great at all. It's now been 3 years since the Xhekaj trade with Florida, but obviously just the third year, going into his third year with the contract, as obviously he had more one on his contract when he joined the Flames. So still a long contract to go. And this one, again, just crazy. In return, the Canadiens would give up a second-round pick and 3 players. Andersson would be able to help with the salary. Andersson has 2 years left on his 7-year, $38.5 million deal. So that's where I'm saying, in terms of salary, a little bit expensive. Not Huberdeau expensive, but up there. The Canadiens would also deal 2 young players in Xhekaj, who's a young physical defenseman who can be an everyday defenseman for Calgary. True, imagine him with like Perek or something. Beck, meanwhile, projects to be a bottom 6 center in the NHL and could push for NHL minutes with the Flames. Yes, the Flames do need centers, and Owen Beck could potentially be an answer. So I'm seeing from all of this, hey, this could be, really good for the Flames. I just, again, from the Habs perspective, which this is written from, I just don't get it. Why pick up, an older forward that's a little bit more expensive? I know he could be great, paired up with the right guy. Playing in your hometown seems to always give players a little bit more fire. Sometimes it totally backfires, but it could be great. The Habs would have to give up a lot. I know from the Flames perspective, do we really want an Andersson? Is Xhekaj even all that, amazing sort of thing? But again, I mean, if this was proposed to Conroy, I would take it and run. Getting rid of the worst contract in the NHL, not necessarily a bad thing. I love Jonathan Huberdeau. I really hope it does pan out for him in Calgary. But at this point, if you can trade that contract away, I mean, why not? But please let me know what you think down below in the comments. I'm super interested because still, I'm kind of blown away that this was proposed at all, especially from the Habs perspective. Now, we do have another proposal to take a look at here. This one actually comes from Instagram, so not quite, a hockey writer writing it, but it does come from a hockey account in Just in Sports. And this one's a little bit older, but it has a lot of people talking. So it's between the Flames and the St. Louis Blues. The Flames would receive Jordan Kyrou, and the Blues would receive Rasmus Andersson and a 2026 first round pick. Now for this one, again, who says no sort of thing? I don't know. I know in a way I almost feel like both teams say no. I'm more leaning towards the Blues would say no. But the Flames, do we really want to give away a first round pick in what should be a very deep draft? I'm not 100% sure. Maybe if you give away Vegas's pick, there's, a chance there. But either way, it's interesting overall. But of course, had to go to the comments to see how people feel. So one person said, why would Calgary do that? Which is interesting. One person replies by saying Andersson probably won't re-sign. Another says, we don't want to re-sign Andersson anyways. Approaching 30, going to be expensive. Contract will suck in the last few years. Need to get younger. So that's like kind of trying to justify why Calgary would do this. And yeah, picking up Jordan Kyrou would be great. He's not, the young, promising guy that a lot of fans still think he is. He kind of has that sort of, aura around him that he's still an up-and-comer, even though he's not exactly young these days, but I would still love to have Kyrou on the team, of course. More people say Jordan Kyrou says no. That seems to be what a lot of people think with trades that involve sending someone to Calgary. Unfortunately, that just is true. Another person, well, it does come from an Oilers account, by the way. Take that with a grain of salt. Another person said, I would say yes, they're around the same age and they're two very talented players. And, sorry, this is so hard to read. And I would think that's a great trade if it goes down. Okay, kind of, I guess, an outsider point of view. Yeah, they're two very talented players. I don't know, throwing in that first round pick's a little nuts, but you would have to in order to get Kyrou. I just don't think St. Louis is the best trade partner when it comes to Andersson. Don't they have lots of defensemen anyway? I'm not too sure. Another person says, Blues say hell no and laugh hysterically. Or if you somehow get Armstrong drunk enough to make this deal, Kyrou uses his NTC and says absolutely not. So another person taking that perspective, essentially. Last couple of perspectives here. One person says, I doubt the Flames trade there first, but Kyrou for Andersson is hot. I don't know if the Blues do that, but that is hot. Kyrou for Andersson, 1-for-1. Wow. Another person says, not bad at all. Give the Blues a second round pick, and it's pretty much perfect. So giving up Andersson, a first and a second for Kyrou, I don't think the Flames do that, to be honest. Another person says, Blues probably say no, but who knows? Who knows? And the last one here is nobody is giving up their first round pick this year, likely Gavin McKenna, or next year, likely Landon Dupont, without it being draft position protected. And that's true. If it's a first, you're going to see stipulations on that just because of how deep this draft is. The chance of getting Gavin McKenna is hard to pass up. And then obviously for next year as well with Dupont as well. So it's another trade proposal. It's another kind of, I guess, what's going on here one. Is there any, real wheels on this one? I don't know. Who knows if people are kicking tires this offseason between GMs. We haven't seen any, crazy trades. Maybe that Dobson one that was kind of referred to earlier might have been the trade or the craziest so far. But either way, let me know what you think of both of these trade proposals. If you're Craig Conroy, do you, pull the trigger on one of these trades? Feel free to let me know. Now let's wrap up this video with the comment of the day, as we love to do here on the channel. It comes from the most recent video, which was, of course, about both Weegs getting an invite to Team Canada and Kadri not. And Guitar Memoir here said, I just looked at the list and I can see why Kadri is miffed. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Bo Horvat, Quentin Byfield. Are you kidding me? Tom Wilson in case it gets greasy in the Olympics? What size is the ice again? People who read my post know I am not a fierce homer, but objectively, this is a joke. Yes, Kadri is better than some of the players invited. There's also other players, in my opinion, that weren't invited that are better than some of these players as well. So I do understand why Kadri's upset, but I also am not shocked that he didn't get invited in any way. Another thing here from Guitar Memoir said, I don't think Weegs will be selected either, but he certainly is worthy of an invite. Yes, pumped for him that he did get that invite, much deserved. But again, I think it will be tough for him to make it on the team, but not out of the question. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to what you saw here today and have a wonderful rest of your day.